Hello and welcome to yet another cast. For you today I have a 1v1. Haven't done one of those in a while on the map Mentor, which is 20k or 20 by 20k. Now, 1v1, of course, only two players, who would have guessed. This is also played on the 1v1 Matchmaker, on the ladder. And as you can see, very high rated. Now, let's introduce the players. In the west, in blue, going Cypron, and opening first land, we have Storm Lantern. And their opponent in the east, in red, how fitting for the eastern slot, we have Durandan, also going Cypron, again, very fitting I guess, and opening first land. And by the looks of it, second air. Since this is 1v1, I would expect early air also coming out from Storm Lantern. Though their early engineers going out, collecting some tree reclaim right here. Oh, yep, tree reclaim. Not just the rocks. Something I can say about 1v1s, especially at this rating, they tend to be a lot more sweaty than team games because, well, especially at these high ratings, there's a lot more optimization that goes into this, especially on those ladder maps that tend to be played more often than. Though to be fair, if we take the more recent casts from me as comparison, those are generally more played on map gen, where of course it's a lot harder to get a proper meta. Anyway, about the map. We have around 8.8k reclaims left on the map, not too much of that probably collected, yep. Just about 400 of that. So, not too much. Right, I thought I was about to sneeze, but apparently I wasn't. Other thing about the scoreboard I just remembered, I should probably point this out right at the start. It was requested that I maybe change it so that the scoreboard no longer cycles between the different mass statistics, and so that the thing primarily shown, unless I want to show something else, is just mass income, so I have done that. If there are any opinions on that, please leave them down in the comments. I would love to see what people prefer. But yes, back to the game. We have early scouts and hunters out for both players, preparing run-bys. Or early raids, to be precise. Also already a single mantis out for Durandan with the same purpose by the looks of it. Maybe looking to pick up some early stuff. This selection of units right here, these two, by the looks of it, supposed to block off this area right here. Well, those two, well, yeah, they have the task of just knowing this small area. But they might run into the mantis right here, that's also moving up. Can't run and see this. Well, they can definitely see there's something here. And it is running right into the mantis, so that run by not going to be successful, as hunters don't tend to trade very well into mantis. In the meantime, Scout immediately moves up right here for Storm Lantern to secure that area, or to get an idea of what's going on up there. And with that, well, there's also air scouts flying over, so that run by has also been spotted. The hunter actually successfully running away up here and tying up that one mantis. Managing to possibly run past and get into the original position that it was supposed to get in. Okay, the hunter actually picks something off. I think that might have been an engineer, not too sure. But now gets found by a mantis and, well, dies. Commandos for both players slowly pushing forward. Engineers making it around the back right here to collect the mechs here. Interesting thing about this map that I noticed when checking this replay are these deceivers, these stealth generators. I'm not sure, since the civilians are peaceful on this, those might be able to just also deceive the opponent with by hiding any unit that passes by, though I'm not too sure about that. But it's definitely an interesting feature. T1 bombers now coming out for both players at a very similar time. Again, overall meta on, especially on 1v1 in the high-rated brackets, is very, very specific about stuff like that. So I'm not surprised about those two players both having their T1 bombers out at similar times. And let's see. This one seems to be going after this extension right down here. But there is an interceptor in the area right now. It looks like the bomber has not been noticed yet, even though I'm pretty sure it was in vision range for a bit. And it manages to pick off one engineer that was building a PD right there. The interceptor is moving, so it most likely has been detected. The bomber tries to go after a mech. Might be able to get a second pass. No, does not look like it. And that goes. A small airfight between the interceptors ensues, which goes in favor of Storm Lantern. But not before that bomber could get shot down. Meantime, Trandon up north, actually pushing through with a small collection of units in the north, 3 Mantas. Managing to walk past the unit line of Storm Lantern, and possibly able to cause some backline damage there. Storm Lantern, by the looks of it, not pushing in too aggressively right now. Rather slowly expanding a economic lead if we look at this up here. And maybe trying to capitalize on that. Which in the long term will definitely have a massive impact. Attempted drop right here for Trandon, but it has been detected, so interceptors are locked onto that. Transport decides to pull back to not get lost, or to get that engineer off at least. Manages to drop, and I think the interceptor, the interceptor does end up getting shot down by the Air Force of Trandon. But a few other interceptors make it in, and those will most likely end up shooting down the transport. Yep, there it goes. Those units right here do continue pushing in, now threatening a few mexes, but being countered by a small force of counter mantas out from Storm Lantern. Managing to take some of those out. It looks like Storm Lantern isn't taking too many engagements, which is, but the one they do take tend to be very advantageous if we look at the kill-loss ratio, which is highly in favor of Storm Lantern right now. But with them not taking too many engagements, there's a different story on the way this game is going, being told if we look just at the overall state of the map, as map control looks like it's more in favor of Trandon right now. I also just realized I had the minimap disabled for screenshotting some thumbnails. Sorry about that. Small push up north, out from Storm Lantern, taking off a few units right here. If we look south, another run-by was achieved right here, also threatening a few mexes. But it looks like the Mantis will be going down before it can cause any severe damage. Well, any more severe damage, as these 2 mexes here have actually been lost. In the meantime, successful run-by down here in the south by Storm Lantern, managing to walk past units of Trandon, and definitely providing potential to cause some backline damage with that. Up north in the meantime, it looks like Trandon might be able to hold against the AC aggression out from Storm Lantern. who is pushing in some singular units, but in support with the ACU, but nothing, no real commitments being made up there, so yeah, no aggressive pushing going on. Some T1 bombers out for Drandon, harassing the land spam. Currently cannot see any interceptors out for Storm Lantern, interestingly enough. Maybe I'm just blind. Or maybe they ended up losing all of them in some airfight. Not too certain about this. But looks like Drandon is actually mounting a counteroffensive up north, taking out a bunch of mexes right here, and starting a run by through the north, and potentially going further after that. Potentially coming back down here after making the tour around north. Meantime, Engineer Drop right here, prepared for Storm Lantern in the southeast. Maybe trying to capture some mexes very sneakily. That run by is still very successful. Still going, and oh, I'm very sorry about this. I need to delete this chat message. Oh well, I would have needed to also block that viewer. I was not paying attention to that. Yeah, that was a scam. Don't interact with it. Please just ignore that that was going on. Sometimes sadly happens. Now, we do have the spam push right here for Drandon on T1, going up now in the south as well, after making that successful run by in the north, and forcing a redirection of a lot of units for Storm Lantern back south now, to deal with that. However, Storm Lantern now just pushing right through the middle right here, and right into the main base of Drandon, who however has achieved T to air, actually on 2 factories by the looks of it, and is now building gunships. I guess to help and defend. How's the situation looking for Storm Lantern? Well, they do definitely have less air factories right now, but also have access to T2 air. Well, it also looks like no current play for T2 land has been made by Storm Lantern. Let's see how it's looking here. Cannot see. Never mind, there is a T2 HQ finished already on the way to T3 for Drandon. Already with the loyalists in the queue, so that might turn out to be quite problematic, as I'm pretty sure there is still no T2 land out for Drandon. And, well, countering loyalists with T1 is, well, you couldn't really call it countering, since loyalists are very good at dealing with T1 spam, due to their EMP weaponry and general just HP pool and firepower as well as range. They are T3 units for a damn good reason. Now, Renegades continue taking out the army that was trying to start some aggression. Down south we see another push out from Storm Lantern, however there is already spam for Drandon moving in, as well as the gunships to defend against that. We do have a few maxes going down by the looks of it. But those both seem to be T1 and thus not too big of a deal, or not too big damage done. However, there is actual damage being done right here if we look further east, with some T1 bombers out for Storm Lantern, harassing both maxes and engineers from Drandon. Further up north, Storm Lantern using that commander very aggressively, fighting off some T1 spam, and now sending in the support army to mount a counteroffensive. However, that T3 I pointed out a bit earlier is at 88%, almost finished. And again, those loyalists will be a massive threat to the units of, to the current position of Storm Lantern, who does now have T2 and is producing some T2 spam out of that HQ, making some rhinos. But, well, they definitely will stand a better chance than the Mantis at dealing with loyalists. It's still not ideal. Especially because they are still vulnerable to the EMP weapon on the loyalist. A very, very powerful weapon. Those gunships continue moving up. And, well, this looks like there might be some sort of aggression coming in. We do have a few renegades now out for Storm Lantern as well, but those get quickly picked up by the interceptor force of Drandan without much chance of actually causing any significant damage here. T1 airfight does ensue. And again, I'm pretty sure Storm Lantern has the upper hand on this. Going after the renegade gunships. Taking those out. And there they go. Factories down here in the south now also being upgraded to T3 to provide the support of loyalists. Down there as well, and if you look up north, a large-scale offensive launched by Storm Lantern trying to get through the north, possibly pulling into the main base from behind with that. However, we do now have the very fast loyalists on the field pushing up behind that, and those will definitely be able to cause significant problems for this army. And you can see the loyalists just completely shredding that T1 army. If it's actually hitting something. And not missing every shot. Why did I only open my damn mouth? But overall, those are taking out a lot of units, and pretty sure those are proving to be very valuable right now. Mass for mass, they technically still don't work, because, well, mass for mass lower tech units still tend to work better. But unit for unit, they are highly superior, and with the build power on the T3 factories, allowing them to be produced as fast as they are, we are also looking more at a unit per unit situation, even though Trandon is technically still behind on mass. They aren't actually behind on total mass collected, though. Meaning that overall they were still able to put more, a higher amount of mass into units, because, well, collecting more mass also means that you can build more mass. Not build more mass, build more units. Technically also build more mass, but as we can see, Storm Lantern going for a more eco-heavy build, but it seems like, while Trandon went for more of a unit-heavy build. And, well, you can have all the eco in the world, but in the end, more shit counters less shit, and thus more units tend to kill more eco, if the eco isn't utilized into more units. Storm Lantern seems like still stuck on T2, getting more T2 factories out now, but I'm not sure to what extent that will be sufficient to deal with the ever-increasing number of T3 units now coming onto the field. Especially in the south now, where they can just break through a insignificant amount of units defending and threaten mass extractors, which will most likely end up equalizing the mass incomes. Two more loyalists pushing through the north, attacked by one renegade gunships, slowly whittling away. Well, there's also a T1 bomber, but, well, again, loyalists RT3 units, they are relatively tanky, so they can take that for quite some time. So yes, it will take a bit for those to actually be killed off. Another force of loyalists pushing making a push from the north to the center by the looks of it. Killing off a bunch of maxes again. And Storm Lantern drops down below 100 mass once more. Not being, by the looks of it, not being able to hold on to that mass advantage for too long right now. However, I just noticed the land HQ right here did end up going down. It looks like there was a major offensive that I completely missed out from Storm Lantern. And without that land HQ, the production of T3 will be delayed for some time. However, a new one is immediately started down in the south, already at T2 and currently working its way up to T3 with 10% finished on that. And those Loyalists, by the looks of it, making... yes, those will most likely pick up this T2 Max right here. With, oh, yeah, right, they're splitting up, so... that means... never mind, they aren't splitting up. But we do have a big wave of gunships coming in. It looks like those are intended to take out some mass points in the main base. Or some resourcing options. T3 now also underway for Storm Lantern. Right, it's not going after the mass extractors, it's going after the power. While power isn't quite as limiting in this game as mass, since you can just build more pigeons in theory, losing more powers is, well, still a lot more punishing than losing mass extractors, since without power you can also not produce mass. Since even mass extractors have a power upkeep, and if you cannot afford that, the mass extractor will cease to work. And the other thing is, of course, you also need power to produce units. Now, was that enough to bring Storm Lantern into a power stall? And, well, yes, technically. Never mind, power seems to have stabilized and there is already a second T2P gen underway. However, that did force an investment to be made to build that. And T2 power generators are not really, and power generators in general, to be fair, are not that cheap. However, to prevent that from repeating, a flag installation is being built in the main base. However, there is still the threat of the three Loyalists pushing in, which, by the looks of it, yes, they will make it into the main base, about to kill off a T2 Max. And maybe even taking out a T2 factory right here. Might. Another T2 Max. T1 BD quickly being built up to try and defend against this. While T1 BD does have a significantly lower range than T2 BD, it has a much higher amount of DPS, meaning that in situations like this where the range does not matter that much, you tend to be better off going for T1 PD. But that, in conjunction with some units that were coming out of the factories, some T1 bombers, and possibly most importantly, the Loyalist that actually did finish here in the space now, that push was able to be stopped before causing too much more damage. Another push in the south is happening. T3 has been achieved once again by Tranda. And it looks like the attempted push by Storm Lantern, while causing some damage, is not able to break through the lines. Especially with the re-emergence of the Loyalists. Up north, this position seems to be completely destroyed now by Storm Lantern, taking out the remaining Maxes and 2 more factories. But there are units coming in to recapture that, as well as some gunships supporting from the air. Overall, map control currently seems to be somewhat in favor of Storm Lantern, but Trandan actually managed to catch up on the economy after those devastating run-bys that we were watching a bit earlier, taking out multiple T2 Maxes from Storm Lantern. And never mind, Storm Lantern is actually ahead on Eco once again. But the economies are very close at this point. Both players have lost a sizable number of mexes to run-bys and air raids. But, well, overall mass collected still higher for Randan. And that is still a massive difference here. And if you look at the kill to loss ratio from Storm Lantern, it is still pretty good at over 1, so for every 1... Is this units or... This is just units. Okay, for every unit lost, there was more than 1 unit killed. However, the ratio has been ever improving for Drandan and worsening for Storm Lantern, meaning that the general tide of this battle seems to be turning, and we have another larger assault of Loyalists moving through the south, just sweeping up everything in their way, without much to really counter that. There are some gunships coming in to try and deal with that, as well as a few Corsairs. And there is still no mobile AA in the mix for Drandan, which, well, considering the fact that the air game seems pretty even, if not in favor of Storm Lantern right now, is an interesting call to make. However, there is T3 underway, T3 Air underway for Drandan, which would also allow the production of both T3 gunships and ASF. And well, ASF, as the name might suggest, lend themselves very well to gain full air supremacy, especially when just fighting interceptors. Those Loyalists to try to pull back end up in the army of Storm Lantern, and with the sizable force of T2 and gunship support and everything that was wailing onto those, did end up dying. Now, up north, a few renegades for Drandan do actually take out a few mexes. However, they have been picked up by the interceptors of Storm Lantern and thus have died. Lone Loyalists pushing up north, attacked by a few T1 bombers. Those will slowly kill it, but, well, never mind, with the ever-increasing amount of T1 bombers on that, might not actually make deal too much damage. And it looks like T3 has actually been achieved by Storm Lantern now. Let's see, yep. Wait, no, I pointed out earlier that they actually successfully had a Loyalist produced to help defend the main base earlier, so of course they have T3. I even pointed out indirectly. Another large-scale push attempted against the position of Drandan, where they are currently holding their ACU. However, that force is quickly pushed back just by a sizable number of Loyalists, the ACU, and a bunch of Cerberus. Corsairs try to go after the ACU of Drandan, but the interceptors in the area manage to prevent the worst, and thus Drandan survives at half health. Not actually dying. And also able to hold on to the position. Though with the attempted air snipe, it would probably be a smart call to get that ACU into a safer position where it's not quite as easily attacked and taken out. Flag in the area takes out a bunch of T1 bombers that were trying to harass the area, and actually also successfully taking out a few engineers with that. But Flag's still very effective at taking out bombers and general T1 air due to the area of effect and relatively high damage. Never mind, I was about to say 2 main armies for Trandon and Storm Lantern about to tangle. This time with actual loyalists on both sides. But both players decide the better of it and don't actually go through with that. How's the T3R looking here? It has finished and Trandon is going into full-on Whaler production, the T3 gunship of the Cybrum. A very, very dangerous gunship, not quite as powerful as the broadsword of the UEF when it comes to ground damage, and not nearly as potent as anti-aircraft firepower as the T3 anti-air gunship of the Aeon, but still a very capable gunship and still very destructive in slightly larger numbers. Currently no T3 air on the cards for Storm Lantern. It's definitely a sizable mismatch. Storm Lantern actually ending up winning a land engagement against a loyalist force of Trandon, with the support of their own loyalist and of course the pretty sizable force of Rhinos. Or well, notable force of Rhinos in that army. Though still taking some significant damage in the process due to the death explosion on the loyalist, which also causes a very dangerous EMP, taking units out of the fight for multiple seconds. The engineer drop down south still not receiving any orders. I suspect that it might have just been forgotten about and sitting there for possibly 20 minutes at this point. Even players at this rating can forget things occasionally. Small run by up here, loyalist, single loyalist dispatched to try and deal with that. Following after, but well, loyalists chasing down loyalists will never get anywhere because both units have the same speed. And a few more T1 maxes do end up going down right here. Storm Lantern actually ahead on mass again by around 30 mass income. Or well, 35, 30, somewhere in that area. It is fluctuating a bit. And we do have another push going on right here. Looks like it is forced back for the time being, but I would suspect that Trandon has the required units to technically break through, even though it would possibly take heavy losses on them. While Storm Lantern has started building up some tactical missile launchers, maybe intending to end this game with a very sudden strike onto the ACU, just ending it in one swift last-ditch attack, since they do seem to be falling behind on the overall amount of units. Trandon still, even though they are lower on mass income, still continues to be ahead on the total economy, and reason for that, something that I did not pay much attention to, but well, there is only one way that this is possible, and that is reclaim. In Supreme Commander, every time a unit dies, it leaves some reclaim behind afterwards, as you can see right here. Those T1 engineers, of course, not leaving much behind because they are not worth much. But the reclaim is a portion of the mass cost of a unit, meaning that after each big engagement, as you can see, you end up getting reclaim fields. And if those tend to be within your map-controlled area, or within your controlled area, you can collect those and regain part of the mass, both part of the mass that you lost in that fight, but also capture a significant part of the mass that your enemy lost. So not only do you basically get your a part of your units refunded every time, if you can get the control of the reclaim fields, you can also just basically steal mass of your opponent. And thank you, Dragon, for the follow. And that allows the very special opportunity for players that technically are behind on mass income to still be ahead on total mass collected, and with that also being ahead on total unit production, since this reclaim allows the players to just keep a much higher production up than they could normally afford. Especially on 1v1, this tends to be very important because, well, as I pointed out at the start, at the high ratings especially, a lot of optimizing in these builds. Even if it might not be following a very strict meta for the map, there is still a lot of that stuff going on, so tends to become very important, and Reclaim can win you a game. The tactical missile snipe is attempted onto the AC of Trandon, however they do seem to have noticed that and pull out before they and change the direction of the ACU before they can be hit. Storm Lantern calls out the GG. Their base has been caught and they go for the control K. Giving up. And I think that is a fair point. This game, even though I only pointed out very late, is probably a very, very good example of how Reclaim is extremely important in Supreme Commander. Since, again, Trandon basically behind on mass income the entire game. Normally, Red Dragon, you should probably write those down somewhere or have a password manager. But yeah, about the mass income. Trandon behind the entire game on mass income, basically, still over most of the game ahead on total mass, while and thus able to just pump out more units, able to produce more T3 units more importantly, and with that being able to overwhelm the units of Storm Lantern. Right. I mean, I guess that can happen sometimes. Bad handwriting can be horrendous, especially when it comes to numbers. Anyway, as you might be able to see with the chatter going on in chat right now, this was streamed live on Twitch. Link to that will be, as per always, down below in the description. If you did enjoy it, maybe leave a like, or don't, I can't force you, and if you want to be notified when more videos like these do eventually come out, you can always subscribe. And whenever I end up uploading and actually finishing editing and stop procrastinating that process with the homeworld stuff I did record, technically still have to play the end of homeworld, but, well, very close to that. That will be going up at some point. I don't know, maybe in half a year or so when I stop procrastinating editing those videos. Don't hold your breath on it. It will happen at some point. It will take some time. And I'm very sorry about that. But anyway, yeah, if you want to be notified when that stuff comes out, as well as the future casts, you can always subscribe. It's YouTube, of course, so it's completely free. And yeah, with that, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed this cast as well. And till then, bye!